Florida is getting expensive. Everyone knows that. Miami? Out of reach. Naples? Forget it. Even places like Tampa and Orlando aren't cheap anymore. And if you listen to the headlines, it sounds like affordable Florida is completely gone. But that's not the full story. Because while everyone is fighting over the same expensive cities, there are still places in Florida where you can buy a real house for under $300,000. Not a condo, not something falling apart, a real home with space, a yard, and a normal monthly payment. And almost nobody is talking about them. Today, we're counting down 10 Florida towns where that's still possible. Some of these will make sense, but a few of them will genuinely surprise you. And as we go deeper into the list, the prices get lower and the deals get harder to believe. We're starting in North and Central Florida, where prices drop fast the moment you leave the coastline. And the first place that proves that is Ocala, a city of about 65,000 people with a median home price sitting around $280,000. Now, at first glance, that might not sound shocking, but in today's Florida market, that number is a major difference, especially when you look at what you actually get for it. Because Ocala isn't just affordable, it's growing fast, and there's a reason for that. People from South Florida, from Tampa, even from out of state are quietly moving here. Not because it's trendy, but because it makes sense. You get real houses, 3 bedrooms, garages, backyards, not cramped spaces or overpriced condos. Actual homes designed for normal living, and the neighborhoods reflect that. Quiet streets, newer developments, and just enough space between homes to feel comfortable. But here's where it gets even more interesting. You're surrounded by nature. The Ocala National Forest is right there, with trails, lakes, and open land that most parts of Florida simply don't have. And at the same time, you're still only about an hour and a half from Orlando. So if you need bigger city access, it's right there when you want it. That balance is exactly why Ocala works. You're not giving anything up. You're just choosing not to overpay for it. Next is Gainesville. And this is where things start to shift from just affordable to actually strategic. Gainesville is home to about 140,000 people, and the median home price sits right around $300,000. So yes, it's slightly higher than some of the other places on this list, but what you get in return is on a completely different level. Because Gainesville isn't just a random small city, it's a university city. The University of Florida is based here, and that changes everything about how the local economy works. You're not relying on just one industry. You have education, healthcare, research, and a constant flow of students and professionals coming in every year. That creates stability, it creates jobs, and it creates long-term growth, which is something most cheaper towns simply don't have. And you feel that difference immediately. There are restaurants, events, sports, and a level of energy that keeps the city active year-round. It doesn't feel empty or disconnected. It feels alive. And that's a huge advantage when you're thinking long-term, because you're not just buying a house, you're buying into a place that continues to develop over time. And that's exactly why Gainesville stands out. It's not the cheapest option on this list, but it might be one of the smartest. Now we go smaller, and this is where the real gap in the market starts to show. Palatka is a city of around 10,000 people, with median home prices sitting close to $220,000. And that number alone already puts it in a completely different category compared to most of Florida. But what really makes Palatka interesting isn't just the price. It's the fact that almost nobody is paying attention to it. The city sits along the St. Johns River, giving it natural views and a calm atmosphere that feels very different from the crowded coastal areas. This is what people mean when they talk about old Florida. Quiet streets, slower days, and a lifestyle that isn't built around tourism or constant growth. And that's exactly why it's still affordable. Because it's not trying to compete with Miami or Orlando. It's not trying to attract millions of visitors. It simply offers a place where people can live without the pressure of rising costs. Now, of course, that comes with trade-offs. You won't find the same level of entertainment, nightlife, or job variety as in bigger cities. But for a lot of people, that's not a deal breaker. In fact, it's the reason they choose places like this. Because the goal isn't excitement. The goal is stability, space, and a cost of living that actually makes sense. Next is Sebring, and this is where affordability starts to combine with something a lot of people are actively looking for right now: peace. Sebring is a small city with around 11,000 residents, and the median home price sits close to $240,000. But what makes Sebring stand out isn't just the number, it's the setting. The entire area is surrounded by lakes, and that creates a type of lifestyle that usually comes with a much higher price tag in Florida. Waterfront views, open space, and a slower pace of life are all part of what you get here. And unlike the coast, where demand pushes prices up quickly, Sebring has stayed relatively under the radar. That's a big part of why it's still affordable. Life here moves differently. There's less traffic, less noise, and far fewer crowds. People know each other, and the community feels connected in a way that's harder to find in bigger cities. It's especially popular with retirees, but that's starting to change as more people look for alternatives to expensive urban areas. Because what Sebring offers is simple but valuable: space, calm, and a cost of living that doesn't constantly feel like it's increasing. And in today's market, that combination is becoming harder to ignore. Next is Lake City, and this is where affordability meets pure practicality. Lake City is a smaller town with around 12,000 residents, and median home prices sit around $250,000. Now on paper, that might sound similar to other places on this list. But what makes Lake City stand out is its location, and that's something a lot of buyers underestimate. Because Lake City sits right between Jacksonville and Tallahassee, two much larger cities with more jobs, more services, and more opportunities. That means you're not isolated, you're connected. You can reach a major city in about an hour, but you don't have to pay those prices every single day. And that difference adds up fast, especially when you're thinking long-term. The town itself is simple, but functional. You have everything you need: grocery stores, schools, healthcare, and local businesses that serve the community. It's not trying to be a destination, it's trying to be livable. And that's exactly why it works. Because for many people, the goal isn't to live somewhere exciting, it's to live somewhere sustainable. A place where your monthly costs make sense, where you're not constantly stretching your budget, and where owning a home still feels realistic. And Lake City delivers that balance in a way that very few places in Florida still can. Now we move into the Florida Panhandle, and this is where a lot of people start to get surprised. Because when most people think about Florida, they think about the southern cities or the central tourist areas. But the Panhandle plays by completely different rules. Let's start with Pensacola. Now, if you look directly at the beachfront, prices are high. That's expected. But the moment you move just 15 to 20 minutes inland, everything changes. Home prices drop to around $300,000, sometimes even lower depending on the neighborhood. And here's what makes that so interesting. You're still right next to some of the most beautiful beaches in the entire country. The white sand, the clear water, the entire Gulf Coast experience is still there. You're just not paying a premium to live directly on top of it. And that's a difference most buyers completely overlook. They focus only on the exact coastline, where prices are highest, and ignore everything just outside of it. But that small shift in location can save you hundreds of thousands of dollars over time. And Pensacola makes that very clear, because it offers the same region, the same access, and the same lifestyle, just without the inflated price tag. And for anyone looking to get the Florida experience without overpaying for it, that's where the real opportunity starts to show. Right near Pensacola is Crestview, and this is where you start to see a clear pattern forming. Crestview is a city of around 30,000 people, with median home prices sitting near $270,000. And what makes Crestview interesting isn't just the price, it's why people are moving there. Because this city has become a direct alternative for buyers who were originally looking at places like Destin or Fort Walton Beach, but got priced out. Instead of leaving the region entirely, they moved slightly inland. And that one decision changes everything. You still have access to the same coastline, the same beaches, the same job opportunities, especially with the nearby military bases and local economy. But your cost of living drops significantly. And that's what's driving the growth here. Crestview has been expanding quickly, with new housing developments and more infrastructure being built to support the increasing demand. It's not just a small town anymore. It's becoming a strategic location for people who want to stay in the area without paying coastal prices. And this is exactly how markets shift over time. First, people get priced out of the main locations. Then they move outward, and the places just outside those hotspots start to grow. Crestview is right in that phase right now, which means it's still affordable, but it may not stay that way forever. Now we move to the Gulf Coast, and this is where affordability starts to feel like an upgrade instead of a compromise. Port Charlotte is a city of around 60,000 people, with median home prices sitting close to $300,000. And what makes this place stand out isn't just the price, it's what you get for it. Because Port Charlotte offers direct access to the kind of lifestyle most people associate with expensive parts of Florida. We're talking about boating, fishing, waterfront views, and easy access to the Gulf of Mexico. The canals and waterways run throughout the area, which means many homes sit right on the water or just minutes away from it. And in most parts of Florida, that would push prices much higher. But here, it's still within reach for the average buyer. And that's what creates the opportunity. Because when you compare Port Charlotte to places like Naples or Sarasota, the difference in cost is significant. Yet the lifestyle feels surprisingly similar. Warm weather, outdoor living, and a strong connection to the water. The pace is relaxed, the environment is open, and the overall feel is much less crowded. It's not trying to compete with luxury hotspots, but it delivers a version of that lifestyle at a much more realistic price point. And for many buyers, that's exactly what makes it so appealing. Right next to Port Charlotte is Punta Gorda, and this is where things start to feel a little different. Punta Gorda is smaller, with around 20,000 residents, and median home prices sit near $320,000. So yes, it's slightly higher than some of the other places on this list. But what you get in return is a completely different experience. Because Punta Gorda feels more polished. The downtown area is clean, walkable, and built around the waterfront. There are marinas, restaurants, small shops, and public spaces that make the city feel organized and easy to enjoy. It's the kind of place where people spend time outside, where everything feels accessible, and where the overall environment feels intentional instead of random. And that's not something you find in every affordable town. The city has clearly invested in maintaining its appearance and structure, and that shows. But what makes it stand out even more is the gap between how it feels and what it costs. Because in many parts of Florida, a location like this would be far more expensive. Yet here, it's still within reach for buyers who are looking for something more than just a cheap house. They're looking for quality of life. And Punta Gorda delivers that in a way that feels balanced, comfortable, and surprisingly accessible. Now we end with two places that show completely different sides of affordable Florida, and together they tell the full story. First is Live Oak, a small town with around 7,000 residents, where median home prices sit close to $200,000. This is one of the lowest price points you'll find anywhere in the state. And it represents a very specific type of lifestyle, rural, quiet, and simple. There's less traffic, fewer services, and not much of a fast pace. But in return, you get space, lower costs, and a level of calm that's hard to find in busier parts of Florida. For some people, that's exactly what they want. But then, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, you have the Villages, one of the largest retirement communities in the entire United States, with more than 80,000 residents. And even here, the median home price sits around $300,000. But what you get is something completely different. This isn't just housing, it's a full lifestyle system. Golf courses, pools, clubs, restaurants, events, everything built around activity and social connection. It's structured, organized, and designed for people who want to stay engaged. And that contrast is what makes this so interesting. Two completely different environments, both affordable in their own way, both proving the same point. Florida still has options. You just have to know where to look. So no, Florida isn't cheap anymore, at least not in the way people used to think. The big cities, the beachfront areas, the places everyone talks about, those have all gone up fast. And if that's all you look at, it's easy to believe that affordable Florida is completely gone. But as you've seen in this video, that's not the full picture. Because once you step outside of those obvious locations, everything starts to change. Prices drop, space increases, and the lifestyle becomes much more realistic for the average buyer. And that's really the key takeaway here. It's not about finding the cheapest place possible. It's about understanding where the value still exists. Some of these towns offer quiet living and lower costs. Others offer access to beaches, water, or even a full built-in lifestyle. And they all show the same thing. Opportunities are still there, just not where most people are looking. Because the truth is, most buyers follow the crowd. They search the same cities, the same neighborhoods, and end up paying the same inflated prices. But the people who move slightly outside of that, the ones who think differently about location, are the ones who find these kinds of deals. And right now, those opportunities still exist. The only question is how long that will last.